Hello, my name is Murtuza Gia and I've been working in emergency medicine for the last 5 years. And you must be wondering why a 31-year-old senior resident is talking about burnout, right? You would have imagined someone much older, a senior consultant, balding, angry, irritable person to be talking about burnout. Well, there's enough literature to say that burnout can occur at any time, can happen to anyone. There is no age limit for burnout. And it happened to me at the age of 29. Through a series of lectures, I'd like to raise awareness about burnout. Awareness amongst doctors and nurses. Awareness amongst policy makers so something can be done about it. And awareness amongst the general public. But a lot of information is already available online. So what I'm attempting to do here is to provide a concise summary of that information. Further, I want to tell you all that burnout is real by telling you my story. The brutal, naked truth of all the heartless and horrible things I did in my burnout phase. I want to confess the filthy things I did shamelessly in front of you all. To tell you that burnout is real. It happened to me. And if you don't take adequate corrective measures, it can happen to you too. Additionally, I'd like to give you some tips. And these are not tips that are available randomly online. These are practical tips that I've used and that have helped me overcome my burnout. I realized something was clearly wrong when 2 formal complaints came to my boss against me. I told a cardiology registrar who was interfering with my treatment, just do the echo and get lost. Don't use your brain further, we don't need that. And then I told a radiology registrar who came for a scan a little late than expected that you are worse than a technician. You don't even understand when a patient is dying and the urgency of that. You're not fit to practice medicine. And I said this to him in front of everyone. I used a lot of foul language also. And then came the formal complaint. But this was only the tip of the iceberg. What my boss did not know is that multiple complaints were not even reaching her. Every alternate shift or every shift, there would be a doctor, mostly a junior doctor, sometimes even a senior doctor, nurses, and other support staff who would cry on my shift simply because I was unimaginably mean to them. Deep down, I felt that I was the only one who was working hard and everyone is having a good time while I am slogging constantly in emergency medicine. Underlying the problem was simply that I did not like to hear complaints about emergency medicine department, simply because we were working so hard already. So I tried to work overtime to try to repair faults in my department. I even came on my leave days to work. We get only 4 leaves, 4 offs a month. And even those days I came to work trying to fix problems. But even then, people didn't stop complaining. And so I stopped talking to anyone who had anything horrible to say about emergency medicine, which virtually is the entire hospital. And soon I started socially isolating myself. I even cut off ties with my family members because I was so irritable, I didn't know when I would say something horrible to them. At this point, I also realized that I was becoming emotionally flat. I did some absolutely horrible things towards patient care also. There was a hypoxic patient with a saturation of 83, and we all know how irritable hypoxic patients can be. So he pulled out his oxygen mask and his saturation dropped further. I pushed him onto his seat, manhandled him, took the oxygen mask and smashed it on his face. I told him, put that there, otherwise you will die. Further, there was a time when there was a lack of ICU beds in the emergency department, and the in charge told me that 1 or 2 patients are going to become very critical now and there are no ICU beds. They're possibly going to die. And all I had to say was, that's not my problem. That is the problem of the health minister. Let the patient die, so be it. That was not it. If any junior doctor came late on my shift, I used to punish them horribly. They were not allowed to have breakfast. They were not allowed to have lunch. And they were thoroughly humiliated during the entire shift. At this point, ideally, I feel I should have been suspended. But my boss was very kind to me. Instead, I was sent on a 4-day vacation. The first day of which I was advised to see a counselor or a therapist. And after listening to me, she said, what you describe is that are symptoms of burnout, you're possibly burnt out. But I'd gone through so much that just possibly burnt out was not good enough for me. So I sat for the next 3 days trying to research burnout, and I got 20 odd scientific articles on the same. I consolidated the data and picked up 2 articles which gave me more insight. And immediately then I started realizing what I had done was horrible. I resigned from my job, and the last day at work, I was required to present trauma, take a lecture for trauma with students. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak about burnout. And again, my boss was very kind and she obliged. With that lecture, I have now found a new purpose. In the next series of lectures, I'll be presenting the same. Thank you for your patient listening. Please do join me on the next lecture.